Chapter 2 Happiness in Little Things. Our family lived in Burla, a very small, peaceful town situated beside the river Mahanadi in the western part of the state of Orissa. Hirakud Dam, once known as the world's longest dam, was just 4 kilometers from the place where I lived. Because of its importance, Hirakud Dam had become a landmark for Burla, a dam which the little, sleepy town was very proud of. If you ever happen to be in Burla, you will see this 4.8-kilometer long dam that connects Burla on one side with the Hirakud town on the other. On either side of the dam, in both towns, there are two tall constructions which serve as lighthouses. The one in Burla is called Jawahar Minar, named after Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who people say came to visit the site while the dam was being built. From the top of the Jawahar Minar, the view of the dam is breathtaking. The length of the dam holds back the huge water reserve of the river Mahanadi on the left, releasing it partially through the canals, from which the water passes through the gates on the right and flows further east, right through the Burla town. Giant pulleys along the length of the dam and a high-voltage electricity plant fill the scene in the east. In the southwest, there is a scattering of green islands rising out of the water. Looking in this direction, it appears as if there is no end to the water. It is hard to make out of the line on the horizon, miles away, where the water meets the sky. The sound of the running turbine is the loudest noise one can hear. One can see the whirlpool of churning water as it drops down the open gates and goes ahead to rotate the turbine. On the east of this stands my beautiful town, Burla. Back in my childhood days, everything about Burla was small. Anyone who owned a Maruti 800 was considered extremely rich for what it was worth. Only a handful of people were privileged enough to have this car in their garage. The town was so small that one could easily travel from one corner of it to another in less than half an hour, that too on a bicycle. In spite of being tiny, Burla was pretty self-sufficient. We had just one market to shop from, which primarily was divided into two sub-markets. People used to call one the Kacha market and other the Pakka market. There wasn't any difference in the infrastructures of these two markets, which could have been the reason why they were separated by names. The only difference was that the Kacha market was primarily a place to buy vegetables, while just 100 meters ahead, the Pakka market was made up of a range of kirana, grocery stores and clothes stores. Come Sunday and the Kacha market would turn into the most populated area of the entire town. A number of small trucks and jeeps would bring in fresh vegetables in the morning, and everyone, including my father, would go to the Kacha market to buy them. But if someone had to buy anything big, like a home appliance or furniture, he had to travel to Sambalpur, the nearest city, because a wide variety of such things was usually not available in Burla. The town was also treated as the knowledge hub of Orissa. In Burla, there were Veer Surendra Sai, VSS Medical College, one of the most well-known medical colleges in Orissa, and a well-to-do engineering college called University College of Engineering, UCE. Apart from the engineering and medical institutes, we also had a branch of Sambalpur University. As far as the primary and secondary education was concerned, there were 3 different schools, each of them affiliated to a different language medium: Hindi, Oriya and English. My parents had admitted me to the English medium school. It was called Sri Satya Sai Kiddies Abode. was a secular town and had religious institutions for all the religions. Temples of Hindu gods, including Lord Ram, Lord Jagannath, and Lord Krishna, provided the religious platform for the majority of the people. Every day, a lot of devotees would visit these temples to pay homage to their deities. The biggest temple in the town was of Lord Krishna. It was well known as the Krishna Mandir, though it had idols of other gods and goddesses as well inside it. The yearly Janmashtami celebrations were held with great enthusiasm at the temple. Apart from the Hindu temples, there was a mosque at the Kacha market, a church near the road to Hirakud Dam, and a Gurudwara right at the geographical heart of the town. And this was where I lived with my family. My father worked in the Gurdwara as a priest, and our house was located within the Gurdwara's complex. We were a family of four: my mother, my father, my younger brother, and I. The entire complex was a vast rectangle with the central portion of it taken up by the Gurdwara building, surrounded by an open courtyard on three sides. Beyond the courtyard, on both sides, a series of 7 living quarters marked the boundary of the area. These quarters were owned by the Gurdwara management, and the rent from them was one of the sources of revenue for the Gurdwara. To the front of the complex was the gateway to enter, and on the right corner was our house. Of course, it was not a house we owned, but a service house offered to my father because of his job at the Gurdwara. It was not a well-planned house, but a good enough arrangement of brick and mortar, divided into 4 rooms. If you saw it, you would know what I mean when I say that it was barely meant to provide shelter. At the entrance itself was the kitchen, but because of the 3 chairs placed against one of the walls, it also served as a sitting room when the woman from our neighborhood occasionally turned up for a leisurely chat with my mother. The arrangement worked well for Mo, as she could cook while chatting with her friends. Our second room was where we used to spend most of our time, and so technically we called it the living room. This room every night after 9 turned into our bedroom. I guess I was in class 3 when Dad bought a black and white Rohini Deluxe television set encased in a brown wooden box. It had shutters as well, which we would pull down at night and pull up again in the morning. It had slots for storing 12 channels, though there was only Doordarshan that all the antennas in Burla could tune to, so the rest of the channel slots were just a waste of TV memory. Ever since the TV was brought into that room, we had started spending most of our time indoor. I remember Dad watching the Hindi broadcast of Doordarshan News at 9 p.m., after which my brother and I used to watch serials along with Mom. On one side of this room was a wooden cot which had an in-between kind of size. Its width was more than that of a single bed, but less than that of a double bed. A wooden dressing table and a multi-purpose wooden table occupied the rest of the room. The table was primarily a study table, but we also used it as a dining table for all our meals. Mom even used to iron our clothes on it late in the afternoon. When I look back, I see how we needed only a few things to keep ourselves happy. Apart from the bed and the table, our living room had a lot of free space. A 3 feet tall and 5 feet wide trunk served as the storage for all our requirements. For the winter and otherwise, blankets, mattresses, bed sheets, cushions, and a lot of winter clothes like sweaters and things that we needed to use after long intervals. On the other side of the room, there was a closet with a glass door full of religious books that my father used to read. My brother and I used the remaining space in that room to dance, fight, and do all sorts of crazy things. The last room was not quite a room, but actually functioned as a store. It was full of wooden logs to support the intermittent construction of the Gurdwara building. Against one wall, there was a wooden rack holding large containers of rice, pickles, and flour that Dad would have managed to get dirt cheap as part of a bulk purchase. A rope ran from one corner of the room to another. This was used to hang out clothes after Mom would have ironed them, for we didn't have an almirah to keep our clothes in. Our house was tiny, simple, and yet complex in its arrangement. We loved to live there primarily because of the vast courtyard outside, where my brother and I used to play. No one in the entire villa enjoyed as big a playground as we used to.